little bit of color there to get us started. And we've got a fascinating welterweight fight to kick us off. And guys, you know me, I always sprint to try and get my Contender Series research done, and I was doing it all today. Ruffy is the guy I've watched the least of, but what I'm excited about is that we've got our guy Dixon in the chat says Caio Barajo is calling a Ruffy round 1 KO. They're training partners at Fight Nerds. Very good gym. We've given praise and love to Caio Barajo on this show, as well as Fight Nerds. It's a gym. Eduarda Mora, I believe, is another fighter on this season, the Contender Series that we picked. We picked her to win by sub, and she ended up coming through in that spot as well. So Fighting Nerds has been on a little bit of a hot streak, but now they've got a little bit more of a difficult challenge. They've got Raimond Magomedaliev, and I believe that if my memory is not mistaken, this is the gentleman who's out of the Islam Makhachev camp. And he had basically gotten the stamp of endorsement from Islam, a little bit older than you would typically see from a prospect on a show like this. He's 33 years of age, but he does have a very sound record at 10-1, does have wins over guys you've heard of, like an Impa Kasanganai, like an Anthony Njokuani. The loss to Nakashima, I thought was a little bit concerning, guys, because I did watch that fight, and Nakashima had his way with it. You know, just took him down all over the place, kind of dominated him in the grappling, especially by round 3. He's taking him down, mounting him, getting to a lot of the positions he wanted to be. And that was a huge concern for me coming into this fight because Ruffy is coming out of a really smart gym. I'm sure they're going to have done their homework. I'm sure they're going to go back. What is a nerd if not somebody that's going to do their homework, right? So I think that we're going to see Ruffy come in here with probably an educated game plan. I think he's going to try and get to his top position, but it's not going to be an easy thing to do. On the other side, Magomedaliev, it's not like he's a bad wrestler. Most of the time, he's the one having his way in the wrestling and the grappling phase. But you see somebody short, stout, with a good wrestling game of their own, they could expose him a little bit. And that's what we saw with Nakashima. That was a little bit of a ways back. So, you give him that credence. But for me, that seemed like a little bit of a red flag. Boys, I haven't even looked at the lines on this fight card yet, so I'm going to be pulling that up as I kick this over to my guy Gordo, and then we will introduce some lines as additional context for the conversation. But Gordo, what do you got, brother?
Yeah, dig into those. Tell me what you think. I myself actually didn't look till later, and you know what? You have to understand that when you're going out here and you're getting stamped by Islam Makhachev, there is going to be a bit of a name tag. That's what it is. Not only that, but he was stamped in Eagle FC by Khabib as well. He's someone who they're looking to promote. He's a good friend. You got the right connections in there, and he is someone who you're kind of paying that name tags for, right? Because he's a talented guy. He's training with the right people. He has that fundamental ground game in his back pocket, and he looks like he's decently explosive on the feet as well when it comes to that striking technicality. And overall, if you go out there and you watch 5-minute fights, it's like, yeah, this guy's got the skills. He's got an ability to strike from range as well. And the guy has all the tools to go out there and have success, especially considering the camp he's coming from. And that's why I understand why he is a favorite. It's just hard for me to go out there and lay this sort of price tag on someone who I still think has flaws. I don't think he's Makhachev. I don't think he's Khabib. I don't think he's necessarily someone who has that relatively ability to be proven at this level, especially considering the way that he's going out there and showing these flaws, right? He is someone who is still 33 years old. We all know how Dana thinks of these older prospects when doing a Contender Series, and he's someone who shows that he has issues, right? His cardio is definitely a big question mark. His striking defense is questionable as well, and he can be counter-wrestled as the fight extended. The problem we have here, though, is although Ruffy is a guy who's been very, very explosive in his own right, has fought well, he's someone we have limited knowledge on, right? We want to know a good fundamental skill set when we're going out there and trying to go against someone from that Makhachev camp, because we want to be able to know what they bring to the table. And that's kind of where we get this curveball, right? Because we think on paper that this Magomedaliev guy is the guy they're bringing in to succeed. I'm not too sure a lot of the time, right? Are they bringing in this 33-year-old guy with cardio issues? Are they bringing him in here as a guy who hasn't really always been the most entertaining fighter a lot of the time to go in there and steamroll this guy from Brazil, who I think has some fun fights in his record? It seems to me like this, we truly have some good matchmaking. And I don't think there is really someone they're trying to promote to a bigger extent. I do think there's a name tags of Magomedaliev, but what we do have is a very fun fight. And this is a very long-winded way for me to say that this is a line that is a bit too wide for my liking. Not one where I'm probably going to take a stance, but I'm going to sit back and enjoy this fight from a viewing perspective. But I don't think Ruffy's that bad. I think he throws his fighting intention. Very powerful guy. Yeah, his hands are down low, but he has great hand speed, great ability to go out there and knock people's lights out, and it's fun to watch. That's an entertaining style. That's more the Dana White Contender Series style, is what I'm trying to say. Yes, there's question marks. I think he can be backed down against the clinch. I think he can be taken down. His cardio is still unknown since he hasn't really been taken to round 3 at all. but he's still a guy who's fun to watch, who I think is going to have the more powerful shots. And although Magomedaliev is a guy who is probably going to be the better wrestler of the two, is his cardio good enough to carry him all 3 rounds here if he can't get Ruffy out of there? So to me, there are questions. For anyone going out there getting an early number on Magomedaliev, sure, don't blame you. I think he has the more well-rounded skill set. But to me, I do like this Fighting Nerves camp. I do like their ability to game plan. I do like this guy's speed and striking. And I think it's going to be for a very, very fun fight. So considering the backgrounds and the teams behind both these guys, I don't really have a strong opinion. I think the line's wide. Might sit back, my feet up. I have no action on this one so far.
The chat is fired up here. We got people on props. We've got people looking at taking a shot on the dog here. Our guy Mushroom MMA, a regular in the comments section. Our guy George as well, looking at the Fighting Nerds camp. He's excited about it. Our guy Just Win Baby says Dana White steroid series, Russian wins. So that's what he's looking at. He's thinking that maybe we got some, supplemental enhancements on the side of the Ruski in this one. Dixon says, stop Brazilian hate, a common refrain on this show. So, Pierce, what do you think? Should we stop Brazilian hate here? Are you liking the underdog, or do you like the juicy boy Russian? What do you think?
Yeah, so we've had 2 Fighting Nerds guys this season with Gene Silva and Carlos Prates, and I bet on both those guys. I'm 2-0 betting Fighting Nerds, and we're going to fucking make it 3-0 come tomorrow night. So my issue with Raimond, I think he's a very talented fighter, but at the end of the day, he's 33 years old, and I've noticed Tapology actually has the wrong age for Ruffy. He's actually 27, and Tapology has it as 30, so ideally, I feel like Ruffy's making improvements. And then I know you guys said he trains with Islam. I don't think it's full-time. I've actually seen him with a lot of the ATT, American Top Team Russians. He's been cornering them for the past, because I think he hasn't fought in 16 months since the IMPA fight, so he's been in a long layoff. And while I think Raymond's a really talented fighter, it's just at the end of the day, I just see the number, and it's like -245 for Raimond. Yeah, I get he should be the favorite because he probably offers more tools to win this fight. We see him clinch. He has a good clinch game. That's probably where he works best. But I find it odd for someone from that part of the world in Dagestan that he's so bad off his back. I mean, offensively, his wrestling is great, but I've seen him in multiple fights. I mean, you mentioned it, the Nakashima fight. We saw moments in the Impa Kasanganai fight as well, and then even the Maguire fight as well. In the last round, he got mounted. And, I mean, Gordo brought it up. The cardio is suspect on the Raymond side. I wouldn't even say Ruffy has great cardio either, because I've seen him in some of his fights that get extended. He slows down, but at the end of the day, when I look at Ruffy, I think he has elite takedown defense where he's not fighting like Dagestani level wrestlers. I just see a lot of the stuff he's doing, especially in the Manuel Souza fight. That's probably, even though he did lose, he got knocked out in the second round. That's probably the best opponent Ruffy has fought. And he did an amazing job staying up on the feet. I think Manuel got him down once, but he popped right back up. And you can just tell fundamentally he does all the right things when it comes to defending the takedowns. So I feel like this fight's probably going to play out in the clinch. I mean, Raymond, he has good striking in his own right, but I feel like in this matchup, he's going to want to force the clinch because the way Ruffy strikes, he's very dynamic, and he's kind of a powerhouse. I mean, I feel like Ruffy, if they stay at range, I think he might hurt him. But at the end of the day, Ruffy, for as good a takedown defense he has and for as dynamic he is a bit hittable. That's probably what has caused him to lose in the past. I mean, we saw in his loss, he was a little cocky, hands down, he gets caught. So, I mean, maybe Raymond can find a KO. I just think at this price, it's hard to really justify betting Raymond at the end of the day when he has suspect cardio. And I believe his path to victory is like a clinch fest decision. And it's like, I'm not paying -250 for someone to clinch for 3 rounds. It's just weird, man, because I don't think Raymond's the type of guy that's going to go out there and put on a dominant performance and get a contract. Meanwhile, Ruffy, I think he could get a first-round knockout here if Raymond stays at range, but it's a tough fight to really get a read on because I don't really know what type of fighter Raymond is. He hasn't fought in 16 months, so is he regressing? Is he getting better? He does look like he's on the steroids, but I don't know. They sized up pretty well, man. So it's tough to really justify the chalk here, so I got to take a shot on the dog. Got +190. If it keeps going up, I'm going to add some more. I just feel like Ruffy's the value side.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine when you look at a guy like Raymond and he's got that layoff, I think Eagle FC was kind of going through some stuff financially where they weren't sure if they were coming or going for a little while. And like Khabib stepped away from running the show, I think. So they didn't know what they were going to do. I'm sure that a lot of those Eagle FC fighters were kind of in limbo. Also, if you remember, there was kind of that weird period where like a bunch of Russian fighters were just pulled from cards and nothing was ever said about it again, like a Tagiru Ulanbekov and these guys just like, just pulled from a fight and then replaced and never spoken of again. for a little while. So I don't know exactly what else going on with some of those situations, but it does make me think some of these guys maybe couldn't get out of country or certain kind of restrictions in order to get fights. So he might just be, trying to make up for lost time here. You look at that Impa fight. I think that's a great point you bring up. Impa's kind of weird to judge people against because I do think he's got a ton of inherent athleticism. You look at his body, he's got like a big body too. It's really hard for Magomed to get much going against Impa physically. Like he normally is able to leverage his physicality over opponents and was not able to do that. And so that's my question here is Ruffy wasn't really leveraged physically in his loss. He was just knocked out on the feet and kind of fighting a little bit, to your point, arrogant. So I do think when I'm looking at this kind of matchup, I don't expect Magomedaliev to knock him out on the feet. I do think that there's a chance he could just ground him out, like just take him down, wear him out, and eventually get the finish from being kind of a grinder on top. So I think there is a possibility for a late finish on the Magomedaliev side, but I would think Ruffy is probably the more likely guy to end it early. So for me, maybe Ruffy on the money line early, and then if you have live options, you could try and potentially get a better price as well, because I do think he's getting taken down in the first round here at a decent clip. Magomedaliev comes out with a pretty good pressure game.
At the end of the day, we just haven't seen Ruffy on his back, so it's just like I don't know if he's going to be a fish off his back, but I've seen him hit. He's just got great hips, honestly. It's like the dude's balance looks really well, and if I haven't seen him on his back, I'm not going to assume he's a fish off his back, so... out of Fighting Nerds, no losses by sub. So, dude, that gym's on fire, man. I'm not looking to get in front of that. 100%, but yeah, Fighting Nerds for the win.
If you are like Pierce and you do think he does have good takedown defense, then yeah, he's going to be the side here. I didn't see enough to be proven that he does. I mean, he's facing his level of competition. He still ends up being taken down in a couple of these spots. And to me, facing a guy who's going to be the best wrestler yet, I'm a bit more cautious than Pierce is. If you think he's got great takedown defense, go for it. You get a big plus money for it. In my eyes, though, the one final thing I'll say about this is when I'm going out there and I want to fade Raimond here, I need a guy with good cardio and a good ability to make him work, right? We know how to test that cardio. The way you want to beat Raimond is making him tired, right? And I haven't seen Ruffy in round 3. So who knows that he is going to be fresher than him in round 3. He probably will be coming from that camp. But until I see it from my own eyes, I'm not going to go out there and bet on it or force any action on that. However, if you do have stronger stances, go for it. I also don't mind the fact Raimond was down in Florida at ATT. Get the work in. Show you're going out there trying different gyms, different partners. I don't mind that. For me, it comes down to as simple as gun to my head. I would pick Raimond here. However, I do think the line is wide, so I'm staying away.
The last couple of things I'll mention here as we move to the next fight, guys, the A side here on social media is definitely going to be Magomed, and by a huge margin. He's actually got the biggest social media following of anybody on this fight card, almost 50,000 followers. It's more than half the people you see on like a standard UFC card. So he's definitely a well-known guy, probably one of the more well-known guys coming in from an Eagle FC type promotion. But, still has a lot to prove in the octagon. And I think the line reflects the fact that, he's considered the A side here.